This speaker is going to be a hit. This is my first go around with ELAC speakers, but I have heard really good things about the debut series. So it was no surprise when I got these speakers in and I fell in love immediately. These are the classic large-ish two-way big box store bookshelf speakers. There's no flash. They only come in one colorway, black. And they're incredible. They feature a nice chunky magnetic grille on the front with a cutout on the bottom revealing the logo on the front baffle. The weave on the mesh has a nice visible couch-like texture to it. I like it. The front baffle itself features a satin finish that elevates the overall appearance. It features a 6.5-inch Aramid fiber mid-bass driver and a 1-inch aluminum dome tweeter. The tweeter sits on a waveguide and has a vertically centered metal ornament over top of it. It reminds me a bit of a Lincoln Hood ornament. Around the back you get a large bass reflex port and a single set of binding posts. Frequency response for this speaker is 42 Hz to 38 kHz. Nominal impedance is 6 ohms. Sensitivity is 87 decibels. Crossover is 2000 Hz. Recommended power amplifier 20 to 140 watts. Peak power handling is 120 watts. This cabinet is 16mm MDF, and the speakers weigh about 17.3 pounds. And to top this all off, these retail for $450 US, $7.99 Canadian. Like, what are we doing? Like, go buy these. I set these up as I do every speaker in my living room, about 8 inches away from the front wall, on stands about 8 feet apart, and towed in a touch towards my listening position. The equipment that I use is the same stuff I use every single time, the Cambridge Audio CXA81 Mark II paired with the CXN V2 streamer, and I also switched out to the Cambridge Audio Evo 150 streaming integrated amplifier, the all-in-one thing that I love so much, and I also used my B&W 610 to fill in the low end when I needed to, which wasn't all the time. Now, usually for a bookshelf speaker review, I inevitably end up talking about how you need a subwoofer to fill in the low end because the speaker just can't reproduce the sort of bass that you need for the majority of the music that I listen to. That's not the case with this speaker. This speaker works really well on its own, and yes, you can get a sub if you want to really fill in that low end for that bass boom, but on its own, this speaker can be used perfectly fine without one. And I know this because my speaker of choice prior to doing these reviews, I think you can see it peeking into the frame there, is the B&W 685 S1s. And for the first 2 years of having that speaker, I didn't have a sub. And I adored that speaker. And I thought everything I sent through that speaker sounded amazing. And I bring up that speaker specifically because this ELAC speaker reminds me so much of this B&W 685 S1s that I ended up just putting the 685s into place just to hear them alongside the speaker, just because the ELACs sounded like the natural successor to the 685s. Like they had a similar sonic signature to what I remember the 685 sounding like, but just tighter and cleaner overall. And so I took a chance and just A-B'd my old 685s against the ELACs. Now, a word of caution here. I upgraded for 2 reasons. Number one, the heart wanted. I upgraded from my 685s to this 606 S3s. And I heard those speakers, I love them, but they don't sound remotely close to the 685s, from my memory anyway. They have a different driver, they have a different tweeter, they feel like they're tuned differently overall. They're more forward and in your face, and they have a bit more U-shape to the sound. But I also upgraded because I didn't feel like the 685s were holding up. Like, they didn't sound as good as I believe that they once did. Like, I have used and abused those speakers over the past 15 years, not like probably clipping my music, playing way too loud. So I feel like they were starting to show their age. So while I did A-B the 685s, just take everything I'm going to say with a grain of salt, like I hope you do, because they may not be in the best condition anymore. Or I have to offer this up. Maybe my ears have matured after years of doing reviews, and now I'm able to inherently hear more of the differences between the speakers. Either or is valid. But playing Charlotte Cardin's Next to You on the B&W 685s sounded good. But when I switched to the ELACs, immediately music was tighter, the sound was fuller, there was more weight to the sound, it was more focused to my ears. But then crucially, up top, there was just more air there. It's what audiophiles will call dispersion. And it was just more expansive and it filled my room better. And they really did sound like the logical progression to the 685s. It was just like a better speaker overall, but with a similar sound signature, if that makes sense. And I know this because when I switched to the B&W 606 S3s, that speaker's boosted. So like the treble comes in way more hot. It's a bit more forward overall. It's not as beautiful as a listen as the ELACs, which is hilarious because the B&W is like twice the price of the ELACs. So like a bit of buyer's remorse on my part. Like honestly, I wish I bought the ELACs now instead of the B&Ws as my speaker purchase this year. They're just so much better. I mean, they're better than all of those, too. Playing Shadow People from Benny L. It's a big, stinking, nasty drum and bass tune. I can turn this up to 11, and I don't have to reach for the remote on the Evo 150 to turn down the treble. It just sounds incredible. There's enough weight there to give me a proper bass face, like this face here. Like, if you like drum and bass, you know what I'm talking about. It makes you scrunch up your face when you hear a good bass line. And then when I switch over to the 606s, I got to turn the treble down. There's just too much treble there, I think. Unless that's your bag and you like that detail, or you're hard of hearing and you need something to bring that treble back. But now it's not all bass music in this review. Playing Love Theme from Spartacus by Terry Callier. I fell in love with this song doing the Totem Bison monitor speaker review. It's an acoustic track. It's guitars, it's a vocal, and then cymbals for ambience. And then via the Bisons, I didn't really like it. It's a very natural, neutral, flat-sounding speaker, but crucially, in my room, it was missing a lot of the low, mid, and bass to really fill it in, like the ambience of that track. And when I turned on my subwoofer, it brought back the feeling of them playing that song closer to my ear, and it just sounded more full. But when I switched in the ELACs and turned off my sub, it sounded better. It was a more full sound. I was more immersed in the sound. The immersion from like the waveguide or whatever they did to the top end of the speaker, I just felt more immersed in the sound. It felt like they were playing the song just feet away in my room. And then when I flip on my subwoofer, it made almost no difference. Like maybe a little bit more body, but the speakers were doing the heavy lifting. The only speaker that I have on hand that sounds comparable is the Q Acoustics 3030i. It's a similarly large cabinet bookshelf speaker, similar size drivers, and I mean, depending on what you're playing, they sound almost indistinguishable. Playing the Creator from Paradox, a big, nasty, rolling drum and bass tune. I mean, it's near mono sounding. And so between these two speakers, I could barely tell the difference. They're pretty much none. It's only when I play something with vocals, like running Charlotte Cardin's Next to You back again, there's just more air up top on the ELACs than there is on the Q Acoustics. That's it. As far as speakers go, these are damn near perfect. Price be damned. I would recommend these to every single one of my friends if they were looking to get a new pair of speakers. They sound incredible with a wide variety of music. And you hear this trope so many times, but like speakers that punch beyond their weight, like these do. They sound incredible, and they outpace a pair of speakers that I have in-house that I spent my own money on. So there you go.